The American eugenics movement took a huge turn in the late 1950s and early 1960s when the state governments began paying more attention to the ideal American family. State governments began brainstorming ways in which they could regulate American families and American reproduction. Intelligence tests and numerous other criteria were created in order to deem certain men and women reproductively fit or unfit. Unfortunately, those of color, those who lived in poverty, the mentally ill, and women, especially single mothers dependent on welfare, were at a much higher risk of being labeled as unfit to reproduce. Once these labels could be made, it did not take long for legislature to begin sending bills to the House and cases to the courts. Across the nation, especially in southern states, legislatures drafted bills to punish welfare recipients who bore 2 or more illegitimate children with incarceration, sterilization, a fine, or a combination of all 3. However, forced sterilization among both men and women became the most common way for the government and health officials to regulate human reproduction in the United States. Though it is not known, it is estimated that anywhere from a few thousand to hundreds of thousands of Americans were sterilized against their will in the 1950s through the 1970s. Some cases even went as far as to force young women to abort their pregnancies, as with a girl in Washington state who was forced through a tubal ligation at age 15. However, when officials realized that the procedure failed when she turned up pregnant at age 19, they ordered her to abort the pregnancy and undergo a hysterectomy. Social workers, physicians, and members of state eugenics boards identified poverty and unwed pregnancy as symptoms of feeble-mindedness, and they used these symptoms as a way to justify the sterilization of poor, unwed black mothers under eugenics laws.
1945. California's Sonoma State home. Charlie Follett, a 14-year-old ward, is singing in a field when he's ordered inside.
First, they shot me with some kind of medicine. Supposed to deaden the nerves. Then the next thing I heard was snip, snip, and that was it.
Did they tell you what they were doing to you?
No.
They didn't have to tell him. He knew. A sterilization by force. How did you know what it was?
Well, because, see, there's been others in there that had it before me.
The other boys at the home had warned him how much it would hurt.
Well, when they done this side here, it seemed like they were pulling the whole insides out.
The 1930s through the 1950s were the heyday of the eugenics movement in the United States. California, the leader in forced sterilizations, but decades later, not a leader in making amends to victims. A few hundred survivors are still alive by one scholar's estimate, but the state has offered no reparations. Follett's tried for years, but says he can't even get a politician to talk to him, not even his own state representative, who also refused an interview request from CNN. His friend, Rudy Banlison, a nursing student, shows me letters he's written to no avail on Follett's behalf.
Do you think the state of California just wants to forget about this, forget it ever happened?
Honestly, I think they're just waiting. I mean, I hate to sound so cynical. I think they're just waiting for the victims to die and forget this whole thing ever happened.
Compare that chilly response to the state of North Carolina.
The state of North Carolina is a partner with you in trying to bring awareness.
Governor Bev Perdue has invited sterilization victims to the Capitol, heard their stories, apologized personally, set up a task force to help them, and recommended that each victim receive $50,000 in reparations. In California, just a statement of apology by Governor Gray Davis in 2003, saying it was a sad and regrettable chapter in the state's history, and it is one that must never be repeated again.
An apology from the governor, is that enough?
No, it's a start, but it's only a start. These people deserve to be compensated, just like any other victim that has had their rights violated.
Where does all this leave Follett? He's 82, recovering from lung cancer, and hoping justice will come before he dies.
Over the past 40 years, it has become clear that the eugenics movement, including forced sterilization, has become a piece of American history that government officials simply want to act as if never happened.